Blue light is one of the most rare forms actually in nature of the entire spectrum, naturally, but we are bombarding ourselves with it. So we are throwing off that cycle. When we are exposed to blue light, independent of eating, exposed to blue light, not eating in a fasted state, we raise blood sugar. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We raise blood sugar. Now, the same thing can be said when we go do a red light therapy session or go out and get in the sun. Red light lowers blood sugar. Do you remember what I said in the previous episode about ATP? Under red
Right.
light, it runs at 100% efficiency. We are running and we're burning and we're using the fuel appropriately. When we do that, we lower the blood sugar. We have a lack of radical oxygen species, radical nitrogen species, ROS, RNS, when we are running at a more efficient manner. Glucose is a radical quencher. The body is trying to compensate for inefficient metabolism because our light environment is garbage.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Ultra Life Today. I'm Josh Bellieu. Part 2, Episode 2 of this 3-part series with Logan Duvall. We're talking about the role of light as it relates to physical health. We covered some of that in our first episode. I do want to mention Logan has got a lot of resources. He'll tell you about those. He'll mention books and articles. Please take good notes, pause, see where you're at, and go read some of those resources. Fritz Popp and Roland Van Wyck. Logan is an entrepreneur, an author, has walked through a cancer journey with his oldest son, Lander, father of 4, and has taken a massive deep dive into the world of health. And specifically, I think within the last year especially, has become so absolutely fanatically passionate, and I love it, about the role of light and our health. Natural light, full spectrum light, the actual sun that on the break he and I were just talking about it, and he says, hey, I don't make any money off this. This is free to everyone. Get outside, open your windows, turn off your electronic devices. So with all that said, back to Logan Duvall on this second episode, and let's explore a little bit more about the electromagnetic orchestra and some of these amazing things that you have learned and are putting into practice and telling other people that are having great results, Logan. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. No, it's just such an important conversation that don't feel like enough of us are discussing or aware of,
Right.
especially clinicians or patients, you know? And so, again, I always have to give credit to the intellectual giants that laid foundations for me to come in and just try to piece together major things. And again, the masterpiecer for, in my world, is Dr. Jack Cruz. So I've always got to give him credit because he definitely has changed my life.
Yeah, so this internal orchestra that's going on, Pop and Van Wyck use these terms, coherent light, chaotic light. Is chaotic light what you were describing in regard to LED, fluorescent light, electromagnetic frequency that we're getting from iPads, phones, our computers, now our internet hookup at our home? Is all that fall into the realm of chaotic light, or is there something I'm missing there?
Yeah, no, the external light is different, has a different set of problems. We'll
Okay,
go
so help,
back
help,
to
help me on the chaotic coherent light thing.
the mitochondria. So the inner mitochondrial membrane has got a 3 or 30 million amp voltage, right? This is the equivalent to lightning. The inner
Wow.
mitochondrial membrane. That's incredible, right? So now the first thing we should do is question why is that not electrocuting us then, right? And so we know this through Ohm's law. You go down on scale that we have this. It's inner mitochondrial membrane 6 angstroms thick, very 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 small. So this scale and then the extremes of 30 million volts. Now, how do we control that? Well, this is where we were talking about the mitochondria in the previous episode, is that it produces water, right? It
Okay.
produces deuterium depleted water. So this has nothing in there. It's purest water that you can possibly have, and it insulates this charge. Okay. So now when we have this charge that is, it's obviously extremely important, and we have it insulated, we need to then tie into Robert O. Becker's work within the body electric. Okay. So fantastic book, page 140. Read it.
Wow.
It is absolutely mind blowing. What he found is that under 1 trillionth of an amp meter, we turn red blood cells into de-differentiated stem cells. Okay? Now, this is a big deal. We need to understand regeneration from that perspective. So now we have mitochondria producing electricity. We then have a insulated that gets us towards Becker's regenerative voltage. Okay? Now, this is why we've got to be able to have the appropriate voltage inside the entire system. What mitigates all of this? Melanin. Remember when I said Dr. Cruz told me to get a tan on my son's back? Melanin mitigates all of these processes in there. So it is an absorber of light. So when we go out to a brick wall, if it's painted black and it's painted white, we put our hand on there on the black one. What is it? It's hot. We put it on the white. It's cool. So color is in there. This is about reflecting and absorbing light. It's always light. Color matters every time. So when we have these systems, and this is just one of the aspects of the orchestra that I'm talking about, and why this is such a complex analogy, where it's, percussion, woodwinds, and all of the different things that come in to make that music on time and in the appropriate way. That just again ties in mitochondria and melanin. That's just one angle, right? Now, when you were going with the external light, we got to bring in a couple things. So we have two major systems within the body as far as how we detect light, and that's going to be visual photoreceptors and non-visual photoreceptors. Okay, so visual, obviously visual, it's eyes. Okay, this is where we receive light in the eyes. We have non-visual photoreceptors everywhere. So this is going to be melanopsin. This is 2004 Nature paper broke that through. This is what was referred to as an amphibian photoreceptor, right? It's everywhere. So this detects light. Now, the reason that I bring all of that up is because this external light that we have, blue light specifically, when it hits, it liberates vitamin A. So this frees vitamin A. What does freed vitamin A do? Well, controlled, it does some important things for us to be able to see and function. But when there's too much of it, it breaks all the cytochromes. So it just goes through, it starts breaking and wreaking havoc throughout the entire system. It has major negative effects. So that's one thing that blue light does. It also has a destructive ability on melanin. Melanin is made up from dopamine. Okay, so L-dopa, dopamine. So when it's broken down, we can assume that it's broken down into the same thing. So when we're addicted to scrolling on those blue screens, that blue light is actually giving us dopamine hits. We've all heard that. That should not be, hyperbolic of a statement. But what's actually happening is that we are degrading melanin. Okay, degrading melanin, and it is producing dopamine, giving us these hits. And this is why we see rock stars who are night owls, right? Performing, doing their thing. They're very, very creative. They're more creative when they're getting this dopamine hit from the melanin breakdown. But then what happens? We peak out, and then this is why we have a lot of them passing away before they even hit 30, right? Or they're addicted to drugs or alcohol, trying to get that dopamine hit because they don't get enough sun. Because when we understand what the sun does, this is POMC, cleavage products, metenkephalin, beta endorphin. That's the actual system God designed for us to have that addiction to the sun, but we're not participating in it, and it all gets messed up. And we can go into the cannabinoid aspect of that. So the blue light is causing so many problems. And then we have the fact that we don't get the sun to fix it. So how do we fix what vitamin A, liberated vitamin A, is doing? Oh, we got to get UV light and infrared, right?
I gotta pop in here because you and I were on the phone the other day, and I had read some really interesting stuff from Weston Price as it related to his work over in Africa and how sunglasses had been introduced into the populations of some younger children in some of these tribes in Africa. And this was decades ago. And he said they noted an immediate change in the health of these individuals. When you and I were talking on the phone the other day, that's where I go back decades in reading that and recognizing it's actually really good for me to expose my natural eyes to sunlight, isn't it? I mean, I'm not talking about staring up into the sun for 60 seconds, but I have been a guy for years that doesn't wear sunglasses, and my vision is better than most people that I know my age, and still have incredible, long vision, and have even made my nearsightedness even a lot better. What's the idea of exposing your actual eyes, open eyes, to natural sunlight? How does that work? What's happening?
It's So what you've done is you have blocked those visual photoreceptors, right? And this goes into understanding Warburg metabolism, right? So this is something that we associate with cancer, right? Otto Warburg found out that it's an inefficient usage of metabolism. Okay, but it's so much more than that, right? So we this melanin component, when we look at what Einstein had laid out with the photoelectric effect, something else going back to the bricks, the white and the black, is that the sun hits the material and it releases an electron, right? Like we know that's not a conspiracy either. This is axiomatically true. So we know that light hits a material and releases a free electron. Okay. Same thing can be said for our eyes. So we have colored eyes, right? That is melanin. We have melanin in the
Nice.
retina. So we come in and we hit melanin. It has a release of electrons, right? This is just like plants, actually, when you look at it. And so what happens with this? It charge separates water. Water is hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen is one electron and one proton. Now, where does that go? This goes into the electron transport chain, right? So light is producing electrons for us to be able to have energy. The retina uses a Warburg metabolism. Why? Because it controls proliferation of blood cells. So when we have this epidemic of macular degeneration, myopia, we have caused a decrease in the ability to produce energy inside of our eye the way we're designed to do it, and we have to offset that by increasing blood vessels to bring in and change the metabolism. That pressure is macular degeneration. So you want to reverse that, stop wearing the sunglasses, get the contacts off, and get out in the sun. So
Wow.
this is a big deal. And so that's why we can't just throw out Warburg metabolism either. That is atavistic effect of a poor light environment, either external or internal.
So prevention or early detection, as we kind of move around this subject of cancer, the model you're proposing, again, goes back to, and I think maybe we'll just keep preaching this in every episode, because although we both love supplementation and understand its benefits and limitations and how it does work for some people and it doesn't for others, do you think one of the missing components to individuals getting better? I mean, I wonder if anybody has done any large scale surveys of individuals that are, trying to take this metabolic approach to treating their cancer, eating appropriately, keto, paleo, carnivore, whatever modality they choose to use there to accelerate that therapeutic benefit, limit glucose. But I wonder if the missing component to a lot of people I know that seem to be doing everything right, and yet they don't seem to be getting better with their cancer, or they're not moving as quickly as a lot of other people. I wonder if the missing component is actually sunlight. Do you think that sunlight is going to end up just literally supercharging the therapies and the diets that individuals actually use, and literally kind of putting that, pardon my French, on steroids to get that accelerated toward health?
I think you answered the question. You laid it out beautiful, because what we're doing is not working. We are losing amazing, incredibly brilliant and gifted people in each one of the communities to cancer that you laid out. Every single one of those communities, we're losing people left and right. And
Yeah,
if
and
sun is not the foundation of the protocol for cancer, you are missing the biggest piece. This is what we refer to as a Dunning-Kruger moment.
so let's talk for a second about some practical way that, when you and I were on the phone the other day, you were like, an individual basically kind of almost needs to see the sun come up. I
Every
mean,
day.
I'm taking words out of your mouth a little bit there, maybe adding some of my own in. But what is this whole idea of circadian rhythms for those people that may be a bigger word than you know of? My Josh Bellieu paraphrase of a circadian rhythm is that the way light actually affects our eyes when it is exposed to light, like ancient cultures who went to bed when it was dark, woke up when the sun came out, it literally sets the metabolic processes for the entire body, and it's going. So what are some practical things related to an individual setting up their circadian rhythm? Because now we get into this idea of sleep and how healing is sleep. So give me some ideas of how one would expose their eyes to sleep. And what happens to the people that are living in Boston? What happens to the people that are living in these areas where the sun is so low. I mean, do we just tell them to move to Texas, Arkansas, and Oklahoma?
Everybody needs to just kind of make that decision for themselves, but the data
Yeah.
doesn't lie where we have these diseases and conditions, right? And we know unequivocally we have above the 30th latitude MS risk, right? At the equator, MS doesn't exist. And, modern medicine has no solution or reason for that paradox, but it's like obvious if you understand a little bit of what I
Right.
just laid out. Like same for Lou Gehrig's disease, right? ALS. Like same for all of Parkinson's. Same thing. Parkinson's is a degradation of melanin inside of the brain. So like when you hear everything that I've laid out, now this is I'm gonna tie it back into what you said about the keto for cancer. And this is why it doesn't work for everybody and doesn't work actually for a lot of people, because the TCA cycle does not spin properly without the sunrise being seen by the visual photoreceptors. What does that mean? That means we cannot beta oxidize. We cannot appropriately break down fat if we do not see the sunrise based on everything that I've just laid out. So if you're going to do keto, you're going to do these things, and you don't have the sun, you're missing the biggest piece of the entire puzzle.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, and it's so interesting you say that because I have always had this profound belief that exposure to light, natural light with our eyes and on our skin, has a profound ability to really reset people's metabolic processes within their body, help them fight, excess adipose tissue, body fat, and things like that. I don't want to leave this episode without saying, people go out and get natural sunlight, go out and watch the sun come up like Logan is expressing for us to do. Take the time, be intentional about exposing yourself to sun. For me, Logan, one of the coolest things that happens for me when I'm kind of known at times to ebb and flow a little bit with my emotional health, and generally can stay pretty positive and pretty pumped up. But, I find as I have regular exposure to the sunlight, my mental, not just my mental faculties, it's my mood. My mood is so much better when I'm in the sun. Is that something that in your research you just see that as a constant? Is sunlight one of the missing components to the whole mental health problem issue that we have going on around us?
It is the missing component to the mental health issue. It's the missing
Wow.
component to every single disease that we face. And so when you said that, on a broader term that we all have heard about is SAD, seasonal affective disorder, right?
Yeah.
We know that we see depression, suicides, mental health issues arise in the winter, especially at a more temperate or more northern climate, right? Like
Yeah.
we know
Yeah.
this.
Absolutely.
This isn't. So now we have, when you take into account everything I've said about the artificial light and the lack of sun, we have simply have that all the time now, right? Because we hide from the sun, we stay inside under these garbage lights. So what you're talking about also is where I had mentioned the POMC. So this is pro-opioid melanocortin pathway, okay? And it is a massive, beautiful protein molecule that the sun breaks into what's called a cleavage product. So we have metenkephalin, beta endorphin, alpha beta gamma MSA, right? We have CLIP, right? We have all these things. So it's very important to understand another aspect of that is these modulate the immune system, the mental health, neurotransmitters, on and
Yes.
on and on and on and on. Now, this is very important for a diabetic to understand. I will go out on a limb. Type 2 diabetes is a blue light toxicity and sunlight deficiency. That's what it actually is. Okay.
Wow.
That's what it is. So when we know based on this, where there is a compound called CLIP, 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 this is going to be something that's activated by blue light, right? Blue light is one of the most rare forms actually in nature of the entire spectrum naturally, but we are bombarding ourselves with it. So we are throwing off that cycle. When we are exposed to blue light, independent of eating, exposed to blue light, not eating in a fasted state, we raise blood sugar. Okay. We raise blood sugar. Now, the same thing can be said when we go do a red light therapy session or go out and get in the sun. Red light lowers blood sugar. Do you remember what I said in the previous episode about ATP? Under red
Right.
light, it runs at 100% efficiency. We are running and we're burning and we're using the fuel appropriately. When we do that, we lower the blood sugar. We have a lack of radical oxygen species, radical nitrogen species, ROS, RNS, when we are running at a more efficient manner. Glucose is a radical quencher. The body is trying to compensate for inefficient metabolism because our light environment is garbage.
Well, you've been listening to Logan Duvall of the Sowing Prosperity podcast. You can reach out to him in his community. And he has a little plug for Dr. Petra Duvall because he mentioned deuterium-depleted water. Logan introduced me to Dr. Duvall, and she blew my mind with this idea that we actually have make our own water. And Logan has expanded on that today. We're going to hit another episode, so we want you, if you've just joined us for the first time, man, go back and listen to episode 1. You're going to get a lot of cool references that will allow you to do your own searching on the internet, get some books, actually do some real reading, and take it out to a picnic table and get some sun. As Logan is basically saying, every single aspect of our health is regulated by exposure to natural sunlight and minimizing some of these other light sources that we have in our life. So I'm encouraging everyone to do just that and try to do it between those good hours. There's some cool apps out there that you can download to find out whatever state you're in or where you're at when the sun is going to be at peak efficiency. Don't overdo it, but man, start getting 15 to 20 minutes a day. Build up, activate this amazing melanin that's in the body that Logan's been talking about. Again, Logan Duvall, sowingprosperity.com. You can reach out to him. We're going to talk about using light in the big C on our 3rd episode. Thanks for joining us on Ultra Life today. If you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, and share.